Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Facebook's Data Privacy Changes and What You Need to Know. I'm your moderator, Jack Bass from Merkle's marketing team. To lead today's webinar, we're joined by three industry experts, Matt Delaney, Senior Vice President of Media Investment and Innovation, Matt Nager, Chief Strategy Officer, Americas, and Peter Randazzo, Chief Technology Officer, Product. So Matt, I'm going to turn things over to you to get us started.
Thanks so much, Jacqueline. Hello, everyone. We have a bit of content to go over today. And as Jacqueline teed up, we've got myself and what I consider true experts in the category of advertising technology, data, and privacy. We would like to walk through some of the key changes that Facebook has made, both to protect consumer data better and make the controls that consumers have to control their data much more accessible, as well as some of the platform changes that Facebook has made that impact how marketers are leveraging first, second, and third-party data. We'll end with a robust Q&A session informed by questions that we've received in advance, as well as those that come in during this webinar. So first, let's discuss just what is going on with Facebook. Before we can proceed, however, we should disclose that neither myself nor Peter Randazzo are lawyers. However, Matt Nager, also on this call, has devised a disclaimer that is easy to read that protects anyone and everyone from misinterpreting any of this information. Again, this is Merkle's opinion and perspective on the changes that have come very quick, and in some cases in different waves. And what we hope to provide all of you is a distilled down list of those changes and the real impacts that they have on your ability to market within Facebook. So, about Facebook. What is going on? If you were able to watch some of the testimony that Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook's CEO, gave in front of 2 congressional hearings last week, you know that there was quite a bit of interesting dialogue, we'll put it that way. What stuck out to me was just this very opening statement. It was actually this first sentence that was the 4th sentence that Mark Zuckerberg gave in his opening in front of the very first hearing. Facebook is an idealistic and optimistic company. You don't actually have to read much further, in my opinion, for that statement to really resonate in light of today's issues. Facebook, as a user myself, and as many of you can relate to, believed from its very beginning that it had a very different purpose and a very different interpretation of what connecting socially meant. I believe its intentions have always been good. However, I don't believe that this is a company that has matured fast enough to understand that there are other factors in play that don't have good intentions. So when you look at seismic changes happening in the field of data privacy, you know that the General Data Protection Regulation that goes into effect in May in the European Union is a significant step towards the EU providing users with far more control over how their data is used digitally. This has been in the works for years. The world's largest companies have been preparing for this, Merkle especially. And so keep that in mind as we look at the most recent events regarding Facebook's management of user data. To understand what's really going on with Facebook, you also have to look at the Friends Permission feature, which was a feature that, unbeknownst to most people, allowed an app developer to not only access the individual who just downloaded downloaded the app and all of their data. But if they had granted this friends permission, they were also giving permission to access all of the data of their friends. This is what allowed the scandal, as it's become known, in Cambridge Analytica, to go from only about 270,000 user profile data, users that had actually downloaded the app, to what was initially thought to be 50 million that Facebook created to 87 million. This speaks to an idealistic approach to connecting people, to bringing highly valuable data to the forefront for marketers to use to deliver far more effective and engaging ads, and the downside of not closely managing that. It's also how you end up testifying in front of Congress. So what have we seen in just the last 2.5 to 3 weeks from Facebook? We've seen quite a bit of changes, specifically to the interfaces that users within Facebook work within to find exactly where their privacy settings are located, and the ease of use of navigating those privacy settings. The creation of an access your information section. As you can see, it is visually pleasing. It's easy to navigate. It is interesting, however, that Facebook was ready to roll these changes out in such a short amount of time in response to the Cambridge Analytica issue. Peter, in your opinion, was some of this in the works before before the scandal in preparation for GDPR? And is this the end, do you feel, of the changes that Facebook is making to improve data privacy for consumers?
In my opinion, actually, in fact, this has been worked on for a long time. GDPR is, it imposes many more responsibilities on data controllers within the EU of consumer data, that they need to start managing explicit opt-outs. They need to have protecting consumer rights for data portability, the right to be forgotten, explicit consent, and then explicit opt-ins. In other words, this entire framework of managing consent and privacy is definitely part of what was worked on for GDPR over the course of the last 6 months, year plus, since it was quite clear how this was going to work out. I've been a part of a few of those conversations myself, as have a lot of advertising agencies trying to figure out where this is going. Relative to whether this is the end of this, no. You're talking about a large company with a lot of exposure relative to personal data that is not only beginning to get a handle on the power of that data as it matures more as an organization, but that bumps up against a regulatory regime that is at this current point a set of principles to protect consumer privacy, but how it's actually going to work at a detail level has to play out in litigation thereafter. So that means that this regime, this regimen of taking care of privacy for individuals is just beginning.
Got it. That's very good to know. The consumer changes then we can anticipate to just be beginning. The changes that affect partners, I'd love for you to walk us through.
Sure, and we've got a few listings here that we're trying to group into 2 different categories. There we go. First of all, just in terms of features, before we get into this, just to explain the overarching changes that they've put in terms of data usage restrictions. They have put themselves in a position for all of their APIs and feature sets of Facebook having overall approval of whether or not any sort of third-party or partner app is able to have access to anything. They certainly have limited greatly things that are about friends of friends as an overarching kind of capability. So this way, you don't get access to your friend list in many of these circumstances we're about to go into. And in general, they're greatly limiting the access to the graph. I mean, if you look at these first four here, which are really just generalized app changes, you'll notice things that call out in the Facebook logins themselves. Now apps have to, Facebook itself, not just applications, but Facebook itself have to approve applications that request check-ins, likes, photos, posts, and of course, friend lists. Notice how they're also completely blocking access to other types of personal information that are more sensitive, religious and political views. And given recent history, we understand how sensitive a topic that has been.